Aloha, I'm Tom Kosinski, owner, grower, and roast master of Hawaiian Moonbeams Coffee Company. Today I would like to talk to you about brewing the perfect cup of coffee. The first step in brewing the perfect cup is coffee bean selection. The main varietals are Robusta and Arabica. We in Hawaii use the Arabica bean because of the fact that it is more flavorful. Arabica beans tend to have a sweeter, softer taste with tones of sugar, fruit, and berries. Robusta, however, has a stronger, harsher taste with a grain-like overtone and peanutty aftertaste, and they are generally considered to be inferior quality to Arabica. Roasting affects the actual flavor of the bean. The less it's roasted, the more you can taste the flavor of the bean. And that's why a dark roast is often used to mask the flavor of an inferior bean. A lot of people are saying, why would you drink a dark roast when you're almost barbecuing the beans? But some people really like the dark, and it's just because I think they have always drank dark and they really haven't experienced the other roast. The three most popular roasts are the medium dark, and dark. The medium has good flavor and the highest caffeine. Medium dark, really good flavor also, and it's an in-between between the medium and dark. There's always been a misconception on the amount of caffeine in the roast, the different roast. It's always been kind of taken for granted that the dark roast has the more caffeine, where the exact opposite is true. It's the lighter roasts that have the more caffeine. And that's because of the roasting process. The longer the beans are in the roaster, the darker they get and the more caffeine is burned off. Well, it's most important to be able to find the freshest beans possible. And this doesn't happen very much, but if you don't see a date on there when that coffee is roasted, that you know that that's probably stale coffee. When storing your freshly roasted coffee, make sure that you do not put it in the fridge or freeze it. I think there's a big problem with a lot of people believing that they're doing the coffee a favor or they're doing themselves a favor by leaving it in the refrigerator. The reason you wouldn't leave it in the refrigerator or freezer is that coffee hates moisture, and after a certain period of time the coffee will start collecting condensation, and it also will absorb any food flavors or food odors that you might have in the refrigerator. So it's best just to keep that coffee in a cool, dark area like your cupboard or your kitchen cabinets. When you brew coffee, there's a number of variables you'll need to get right to brew your perfect cup of coffee. The fundamentals of coffee, there's like 4 important areas that we have to consider when making a cup of coffee. Starting off, we have to have good water. We have to have water that's either purified or bottled water to eliminate any bad taste in that brew, because coffee is at least 90–95% water. When you brew coffee, you should buy the freshest coffee you can find, and you should only grind just before you're ready to brew your cup of coffee. The best coffee grinders on the market, there's 2 basic ones, and one would be a blade grinder and the other one would be the more preferable burr grinder. The reason you would use a burr grinder is that the blade grinder pretty much chops the coffee, and when you use the burr grinder, you're more consistent in each flake of coffee. So you're extracting all the flavors from that coffee when you use a better grinder. The different settings that would be on some of these grinders would be a fine grind, which would be used for an espresso drink. The medium grind would be used for an auto drip, and the coarse grind would be used for a French press. Normally, to make 1 cup of coffee, you would use 1 level scoop of ground coffee, which is also 2 tablespoons for every 6 to 8 ounces of water. This is a standard guidelines, but as always, you adjust to your own taste. Some people like it stronger and some people like it a little bit weaker. Normally when we're brewing a pot of coffee in our retail store, the Kahuku Country Market, we use approximately 6.5 level scoops of coffee for 1 pot of coffee, which would be 64 ounces. There are several coffee brewing methods, but we're going to go over the 2 most popular, which is the French press and the automatic drip. Anytime you're using a French press, which is a preferable way of making coffee, it would be basically grinding a coarse grind. Then you would heat your water to just before boiling, and then you would pour the water over the grinds, and then stir with a wooden spoon. They don't recommend any metal because you could crack the beaker. Then you cover it with its lid to let it seep for 4 minutes to let the flavor seep into the water. Then slowly press the lid's plunger down to strain out the coffee grinds. And then you're ready to pour your coffee. Then you're left with a coffee that's just more flavorful than just about any other way of brewing it. And then when using an automatic drip, you would be using just a regular filter, and you would use a medium grind, and you would make sure to use the most purest water you can find, or bottled water. Now that you've brewed coffee, let's go over the best way to serve it. After the coffee is brewed, you need to either drink it fresh, or if you're going to keep it for a little while, you need to take it off that burner and put it into a craft or an air pot. If you leave the coffee on the burner after you brew it, you're going to experience a burnt flavor after a certain amount of time. So you're just much better putting it into a carafe or a air pot. Thanks a lot for taking the time to learn about making the perfect cup of coffee. We hope you'll put those skills to good use soon with our freshly roasted Hawaiian Moonbeans coffee. Mahalo. For more coffee tips, to learn about coffee production, or to order our freshly roasted coffee online, please visit our website www.hawaiianmoonbeanscoffee.com.